Welcome back to part 8 of how to make a HexTile board game in Unreal Engine. In our last video, we got to the point where we could move units around. So click, click. We also added in some of these just visual indicators. Can't move on mountains, it highlights for you, and that works on both server and client. So what I want to do in today's video is we're going to do a little bit of HUD work, which is going to set us up to preparing for actual battles when units overlap. The first thing I want to do in the HUD is right now all we have is whose turn is it. We're gonna add in something that shows you what units you have selected. So we'll start with that. So go into your HUD widget, and I'm going to just copy this border. And I'm going to put this kind of bottom left corner, maybe something like 300. Let's see. No, definitely not 300. Oh, that's position. That's why. 300 size Y, maybe 600 size Y, and then we'll go minus 250 and minus 610. Oh, whoops. No, positive 250, positive 10. Okay, there we go. I think something like this. So basically it's offset by 10 from the bottom corners and then size 300 by 600. And then within this border, let me get rid of this text. Let's do a vertical box and a text. So this will kind of be our header. And let's put this vertical box to stretch completely. And then this text will align horizontally and call it selected units. So then what I want to do is when you select a unit, you know what it is, but you also know a little bit about its stats. So if I pull up the Excel sheet I kind of do this out of, these are the units I'm going to have in game. I don't think cost will be something we'll need to show, but footman and then its attack, defense, movement, I think would be good. And maybe the movement, I'm just going to show attack and defense. We can add that in later. So basically for each, you can have 3 units selected, and we're going to do a horizontal box, drop that into the vertical box, and then a text, and then a vertical box under the horizontal box, and then 2 texts under that. And then with this first text, so this will be like our unit name, so for default, we'll just put footman, just to kind of see if this all looks okay. And we'll fill that vertically, and we'll put that on fill. And then for this other vertical box, I'll also put this on fill. And then this would be like, oh wait, I might need vertical box. Okay, so within the vertical box, let's do 2 horizontal boxes actually. Then put 2 texts in both of those. Okay, so now what this will look like is like attack, colon, space. The default would be something like 1. And then this one, defense, colon, space, and then default 1. Okay, and we might need to scale these down a little bit. So I'm going to grab both of them, and let's see what 18 does. Align vertically. And then for these 2 number texts, I don't like how they're not aligned perfectly, so I'm going to do fill and right alignment, and then we'll just do a little bit of padding on the right, maybe 10. So that gets those squared up, which I think looks a lot better. Okay, so let's see. So this will kind of be, unit 1 horizontal box. We'll just copy this 2 times. Unit 2, unit 3, and I'm going to grab all 3 of these and flip this to fill, vertical alignment. That way they kind of space out a little bit, and then let's shrink down this vertical box. So let's grab this border. Let's call this the selected unit border. this other border, let's name that one to, I don't know, round info border. Tell me what's going on. Is it your turn? Is it not? So with this, let's make it size. Let's see what 300 would look like. I don't think that's so bad. So we'll do 300 and its position will be minus 310. So that kind of keeps it 10 off the side, 10 off the bottom. And let's just see what this would look like in game, and then we'll actually build up the logic for it. Yeah, it's not so bad. So obviously this is all going to be blank, and then when you select a unit, that's what we're going to code in. So we're going to create a couple different variables. And this is just how I like to do things. So we're going to make these all text. So make your first one text, and this will be unit, or maybe selected unit 1. And I'm actually going to copy this and just paste it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 9 of these. So basically it'll be selected unit 1, selected unit 2, selected unit 3, and then each of these will be like selected unit 1, attack, selected unit 2, attack, selected unit 1, defense, selected unit 2, attack, and so on and so forth. And then so when we actually select a unit, we'll run this code to our widget and then change this variable, and then we're going to bind these variables to the text. So you haven't done this before. These are variables, obviously, that we'll set. But what you can do with widgets, and how I like to do it, is you can grab a text. So we'll grab this first name, and under content text bind, we're just going to bind this to selected unit 1. And then we'll bind the attack to selected unit attack 1, and the defense to selected unit attack or defense. So anytime you change the variable within the graph, it'll change it here. And then by default, those values are blank. So this text will be blank when we actually launch an editor until we select the unit. So that should kind of make this work pretty properly. Actually, we probably have to do one more thing with the overall visibility, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So I wonder, actually, now I'm thinking of this, because I'll show you what I'm thinking of. This is still showing, so I don't want that to show. I just want to check something quick. Yeah, you can't append. We could do strings. Well, we'll do something for that where we'll hide those if we don't have units selected, but we'll leave it for now. Okay, so we have all these values, and we have everything bound. So what we'll do is go into your player controller turn-based, and actually we might have to do our unit. Let's see. Unselect units. Where's our select units? Yeah, that's done in our. Okay, go to the pawn. BP pawn unit master. So this is where we're actually selecting a unit. So on clicked, is it a player controller? Is it the owning player controller? If true, if it is not already selected, select the unit server. And owning tile does some stuff. Unit selected. Okay, add selected unit. So this is running to the player controller. So let's go to this event. Oh, select. Okay, let me rename this to select and unselect. Okay. So when we select a unit, we add it to this array, and then we trigger this Boolean of unit selected. So from here, we'll just do custom event below this, and we'll call this update HUD with selected units. And this will be run on the owning client only and reliable. And I think, did we make a reference to our HUD? Yes. Okay, so you should have a reference to your HUD, which I think we get from our begin play. Yes. Okay, so then we will pass through our selected unit array, and then that will run the logic. So let's go back into our HUD then and make a couple of variables in here. So basically we need an event, custom event, update selected units. And this is going to input, so it's going to take our selected unit array. So selected units, and we'll call that BP pawn unit master object reference, and then click on this little circle, make it an array. And then we'll right click on that, promote to a variable. Selected units is fine. So, and actually I want to do one piece of logic first. So we're going to grab this variable. We're just going to type clear. So this will remove everything that's in this variable and just completely reset it. And then we'll set it to what our player controller has. I think by setting it, it should override it anyways, but we'll just do this just to make sure that it's completely clear first. That way, like, we should avoid any bugs where there's a unit showing there that's not actually selected. Okay, so then from here, we'll do a for each loop. And we'll do some logic off the array index equals, or not equals, we'll do a switch. Switch on it. And we need 3 pins, 0, 1, 2. So if you remember with how arrays work, is the default, let me just add in a couple here, we'll delete them. But the default is 0. So the first unit in here will be index 0. The second unit will be 1, the third unit will be 2. So we'll have 0, 1, 2, which is for the 3 different units, even though it's not 1, 2, 3, 0 is essentially 1, if that makes sense. So from here, let's give this a little bit of space. We'll set the name of the unit and the attack and the defense. Like that, and let's get these all lined up. And, you might choose, like, maybe instead of the unit name, you could do like an image if you had icons for your unit. So what you would do instead here is just put an image and resize it. So there's a lot you can do here. I'm doing text just because it's simplest and easiest to show, but obviously you can do some things that are a little bit more creative than this. But this is how the logic would work the same. Because when we run this for each loop, now we can interact with the variables in here, which we actually haven't set yet. So maybe we do that now. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to pull up my Excel sheet here again, is I'm going to have 5 kinds of units with different attack stats, defense, movement, cost. Oops. And this is obviously the unit name or type. So I'm going to make a variable for really 5 for name, attack, defense, movement, cost. So let's make our first one in unit. Yeah, we can go unit name. We'll just make this a text. And I'm going to just put this in a category and just call this like unit defaults. And we can do a couple more variables. So let's see, let's make these integers, integer, and add 2 more as integers. We'll call this one unit attack, unit defense, unit movement, and unit cost. And we'll just put these all into the unit defaults. Okay. So this is our master class, which isn't going to have anything. It's just going to be a default 0 and blank. But if you click this browse, this will bring us to where this is all housed. And now we're going to open up our footman, spearman, swordsman. And now with our footman, you can see in our unit defaults, here's this logic. So call this guy footman, and he has an attack of 1, defense of 1, movement of 1, and cost of 1. File save, close that. This one, the spearman, attack of 1, defense of 2, movement 1, cost 1. And then the swordman has an attack of 2, defense of 1, movement of 1, and cost of 2. I think I missed on the spearman. I think the spearman has cost 2. Boom. Okay, so we can close those. And now back into our HUD, we can actually pull these. So running this for loop off the array element, get name, get unit name, get unit attack, get unit defense. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Of the element. And get unit. Actually, we're not grabbing cost or movement in here, so that's fine. So we just need these. So then these will just pass into all of these. And actually, okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different with these variables because obviously we can convert the integer into a text, but we can bind integers to text in here. So I'm going to change these variables and it's going to break a lot of things, but I think it'll be cleaner that way. Not integer 64. Integer, yes, change. Don't show again. We'll have to rebind these. You don't have to do it this way. You can just do the conversion, but I think this will look a little bit better. And now we got to come back into here and rebind these. Selected unit attack. Well, maybe not. Maybe it did change it. Should be surprising because usually it breaks. I guess we'll see. We'll leave it, and then we might have to rebind them. For now, we can just drag these right in, and I think that'll look a little bit cleaner. So just attaching name to unit, and then attack to attack, defense to defense. And this is very ugly, so let's see what we can do with reroute nodes. Move this down a little bit. Still a lot going on, but looks a little bit better at least. Okay, so I think this will work. And then, so when we only have one unit, right, this will run, and then these will not run. So we probably actually got to do some logic here after the clear. So I'm going to make a function because what happens, say we have 3 units selected, right? It will set all these variables. And then if we unselect those and select 1 unit, it will clear this, pass this through, but it won't reset these variables because these variables won't be touched. So we're going to just do a function that kind of resets it. So reset selected units. And back to the event graph. I'm just going to grab this and cut it with Control X. Plop that in here. Back to the event graph, and we'll just call this function right out of the gate. Okay, so this function will clear. And then this is going to be very tedious, but I think it's the best way to do it. We're just going to reset all of these variables to nothing. And I think in here too, actually, we'll play around. We'll do the visibility too. But I'll show you what happens first and why we need to do one extra step. Okay, so this will reset all the variables. And oh, and then back in here, I think is it return? Yeah, and then we'll do return node. So all that clears the array, resets all the variables, and then we'll reset our array, run for each loop, and grab all of these. Okay, so back in our player controller, off of our HUD, what do we call this? Update selected units. So off the HUD, update selected units, connect that to this event, pass through our array, and we need to call this event. So add selected unit, which is on the server, like it's added to the array. Is a unit selected? If false, is selected. If not, so both of these will need to call this function. So update HUD with selected units. So off the true, update HUD with selected units. And we want that to come off the false too. So both of these will run to this. Okay, let's test it out. So grab this unit, adds them in there, grabs this unit, adds them in here, and might need to rework the size because this is overlapping. But now when we grab this unit, deselect the other two, they're gone, and only this unit selected, and vice versa. So this is working pretty good, but what I don't like is how these are visible. I'd rather these be blank. And I want this to scale a little bit better. So let's go back into our HUD and let's work with the spacing here first. So I'm just going to type this in so I can just see what this looks like. And let's just try to make the font down to, I don't know, 22. And we'll bring all of these down a little bit too. Could also make this view bigger. You just increase the width. So it's 16 looks like. I'm gonna make these italic. Obviously for a final project, I'd probably bring in some different fonts and such and make the HUD look a lot better, but for these purposes, I think this is fine. And what I might do too is if you grab these texts under padding, let's just do a right padding of 10. And that should look a little bit better. Okay, the other thing I want to do is, so within these horizontal boxes, there's a visibility setting, which, right, visible, collapse, etc. But you can bind it. So we're going to do some logic where we actually set a binding variable. So make the first one unit one select, or unit one vis, we'll call it. And for the type, visibility, this one, eSlate visibility. And by default, we'll make this not visible, it takes up no space, hidden. And then we just duplicate this and unit 2 and unit 3. Okay, and then back into our reset unit selected function. Let's move this reroute node and we can pull this off. I'm holding Alt and left dragging, which brings it in as a set. So we'll have all of these set as hidden. So every time we run this reset, we'll hide all of those boxes. And then when we actually add a unit to that widget, we'll turn it back on. So let's go back into our designer. And so let's start at the top. So we have unit 1, horizontal box, search viz, and we'll bind that to unit 1 viz, unit 2 to unit 2 viz, and unit 3 to unit 3 viz. So now by default, when we just play this, none of these are open, which is good. And back to our event graph. And so after we run the 4 loops, we'll then reset these if we run the loop. So unit 1, set to visible. Unit 2, set to visible. And unit 3, set to visible. Okay, let's test it out. This guy, good, good, good. And let's run it with a client, make sure the client is working. Unreal crash. Great. Be right back. And we're back from the Unreal Engine crash. Let's try this again. So we're gonna run this with the client. And let's full screen this. And so the first unit isn't picking it up. And I think it has something to do with a variable. So let me play around. Okay, so what's happening is when we select the unit on the server, we're adding it to this array, which is replicated, and then setting this variable, which doesn't have any impact on this. But what's happening is on the client side, it's running so quickly that the variable on the client side, even though it's replicated, so the server is replicating on the client, it's not replicating fast enough. So the easy solution is to run a delay, and even just at this 0.2 seconds, it works. I want to think of a better way to do this because I really don't like using delays for things like this, but until I kind of think of a better workaround, this does work. So now when we click a unit, now it's updating for the client. And a little bit of the delay is kind of annoying, but it will be inevitable. Basically, this line of code is running so fast that the client isn't getting updated from the server, and just this 0.2 second delay does do it. But within the actual game, I don't know if 0.2 will be enough because some clients could be a little bit slower or faster than what I'm running on. So we'll want to do another check or do this check a different way, but at least for now this works. So we have our client, we have our server updating their units, and now the player, can quickly at least get a rundown of what they have. And I think I'm going to end this video here, and then what we'll do next is when units actually overlap, so you move units into another player's unit tile, then we'll start building out this attack tile server. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. And then happy to answer any questions if you're having any issues. Thanks.